Thank you. Good evening. Welcome to the February 19th, 2025 Conservation Commission meeting. The Wareham Conservation Commission will hold a meeting under Chapter 131, Section 40 of the General Laws of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, the Town of Wareham Wetlands Protection Bylaw, Division 6, and any other applicable laws. All hearings for the Wareham Conservation Commission are held simultaneously under the authorities of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act and the Town of Wareham Wetland Protection Bylaw, Division 6. Although a single decision of the Commission is issued, it represents a separate decision under each authority. All matters listed may involve a decision and possible vote. I call a roll call, please.
Scott
Joseph,
sorry.
looked at me on this side.
As I did, I look to you.
Joseph Still.
Michael Mercier.
Sandy Slavin.
Autumn Wood.
Paula Jean O'Neill.
Scott Selby.
And I declare a quorum. We have a meeting, and before we start, I'd like to let people know that 7 Knopscot Way is continued, 25 Oak Street is continued, and we'll continue 28 Nielsen Street and 0 Maple Spring Road. There'll be no discussion or input on these projects as we get to it, just in case anybody's here for them. All right, we're ready to go. Please, the first hearing.
Notice of public hearing. Pursuant to the provisions of the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act, General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Wareham Wetland Protective Bylaw, Division 6, a public hearing will be held in Room 520, Wareham Multi-Service Center, 48 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass., on Wednesday, February 19th, 2025, at 6 p.m. On the request for determination of applicability for Ralph Romano, 294 Plymouth Street, Middleborough, Mass. 02346. Removing existing old, unfinished, and cracked foundation at the back of the house. Replace with new 24-foot, 4-inch by 9-foot proper foundation in the same footprint. Add a first floor addition above it and 2 separate 5-foot by 6-foot additions on the second floor with a small deck between them. Add a first floor 20-foot by 7-foot deck off the new addition. Map number 2, lot 73B and 74A, 5 Admirals Way, Wareham, Mass. I motion to open the hearing.
I have that motion.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 500, we're opened. Anybody here representing that project? Please come forward and identify yourself. And before your seat, I'm going to ask you to raise your right hand. I swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth on this project at 5 Admirals Way. I do. Thank you. And Josh and Christine, please, I swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth in all projects and hearings here for tonight.
I do.
Thank you. Sorry. All right, identify yourself.
My name is Ralph Romano, and I am the owner of 5 Admirals Way.
All right, tell us what you like to do.
You pretty much summed it up right there. There's an existing old foundation. I want to remove that and put a new one in the exact same footprint. And then put an addition on top of that, and 2 small additions on the second floor.
All right. That foundation is underneath the existing deck, right?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. I didn't see anything else in the yard, and I was wondering. Okay, I got there before it snowed. I'm going to, Joe, any questions?
Yeah, when I went out there, those stakes that are in the corners of that deck foundation over
Yep.
there, what are those marking exactly?
That's the new foundation, which is the same as the old one, basically.
All right.
The only thing it is, I'm bringing it back a foot on the south side, bringing it in a foot.
Okay, that was my only question, thank you.
You're welcome.
Michael?
Okay, is the runoff going to be different, or new rather, or is it going to be the same as the current structure in place?
It should be the same. We haven't had any issues with runoff or erosion of any sort. If you looked at the property, there's a retaining wall that kind of encompasses the back lot line and up both sides, more so on the north side than the south side. But that, and it's probably 6 to 8 inches from grade to the top of that retaining wall.
Okay.
Captures the water.
But as far as like, say like rain like gutters on the house and roof and all that,
Yep.
they're going to remain the same?
There is one gutter on the north side. I hadn't planned on putting any other ones in, but if I do, we looked at doing either a buried downspout or a one that disperses the water still underground on the property.
Okay. There's a small shed not too far away from the house now. Is that going to remain there? Is that going to be
That's going to
demolished?
stay there.
Okay. And last question I have is there any plans for the driveway? Is that going to remain the same? Or is that going, is the same, is the driveway, is that going to remain the same?
That's going to
on the
remain
surface?
the same. Yep.
Okay, thank you. No further questions, ma'am.
Autumn,
Your Honor.
No questions, thank you.
Paula Jean,
No questions, thank you.
Scott.
No questions.
Thank you.
I have none. Is there anybody online with a question or in the audience who would like to comment on this project? Christine, your comments, please.
I don't have any comments for it.
All right. Well, nothing to be said on it, so
I motion to close the hearing.
I have a motion to close the hearing and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstained, 500. Christine, your recommendations, please.
-2 and -6.
Negative is good.
Thank you.
I motion to approve with a -2 and a -6 determination.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. It's approved. See Josh and Christine before you start any work on the project.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next one, please.
On the request for notice of intent for David Del Grande, 55 Davis Street, Lee, Mass. 01238. Deck and stairs, map 129A-1, lot 116, 59 Agawam Lake Shore Drive, Wareham, Mass. I motion to open the hearing.
Is there anybody here I have a motion to open the hearing.
Second.
And a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. Is there anybody here for this project? Please come forward and identify yourself. And while you're standing, I'm going to ask you to raise your right hand. I swear to tell the truth and nothing but the truth regarding this project at 59 Agawam Lake Shore Drive. Thank you. Have a seat and identify yourself.
My name's David Del Grande. I'm from 55 Davis Street in Lee, Mass.
What would you like to do with this project, please?
On 59 Agawam Lakeshore Drive, I would like to put a deck around my house.
Around your house?
Well, it's a wraparound. It's 5 by 18 in front of the lake, and on the side of the house, it's 10 by 15.
So you'll get rid of the existing stairs?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I'm going around and ask questions. Joe?
Okay, was this project staked out?
By a certified engineer?
By
Well,
anybody?
just any stakes out there in general?
There
I mean,
there are stakes out there, yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Maybe I was at the wrong house today then. Well, I have no questions really. This project looks good.
Michael, questions?
I had the same questions Joe had, so none here. Thank you, ma'am.
Autumn?
No questions, thank you.
Paula Jean?
I was going to ask about the stakes as well. I was there today and I didn't see any.
The stakes for the project, the deck, or?
For the project, to stake out where the deck is going to be.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you meant for the survey around the land.
No.
For the decks, no, there was not any stakes for the
Okay.
deck itself. Yes, there was not.
I think we expected them just because when we go see the property, it illustrates
Yeah,
better
because
what your project
I
is.
was just myself, because I'm new at all this and stuff. I'm doing it myself.
Yeah.
And I was just coming 5 feet off, and with the survey from the certified engineer,
Mm-hmm.
it gave the measurements, and I thought that was good enough.
Thank you.
That's all.
Scott?
Usually in cases like this, one of the agents will advise the applicant to stake the project. Did that happen?
No, he did not. Richard did not.
Who's Richard?
The agent, is that the engineer?
He prepared the plan.
One of us from our department.
Yeah, I never, I was not unless I misinterpreted.
Okay.
Well, the project wasn't staked, and we generally require that before we even consider a project. I mean, clearly you have to do something because the stairs you have there don't meet building code. But my recommendation would be to table this until the project is staked and we can examine it.
Okay, Christine, any comments on this?
I don't think I had any concerns with this. It's a decent amount away from the actual resource area, so I didn't see any issue.
Anybody online to comment? Anybody in the audience to comment? Scott's concerned that it wasn't staked. I had several of you mentioned it wasn't staked. Do you feel that it's sufficient enough to continue this until they're staked, even though you probably can't get anything in the ground, it's so frozen?
Oh, I could definitely get it into the ground.
Anybody want to continue this? I mean, I'm comfortable with voting on it tonight, but if you want to continue it,
Yeah, I think we should continue it. That's what we normally do for everyone else, so.
do you know what they're asking for? We need to have the dimensions, the corners, something in the ground.
The
so we
corner
can
staked from the size of the deck.
From the
From the house
deck.
to the deck to the
Yes,
lake.
that is what is being requested of the board.
Okay, that's fine.
Commission, we are a commission, okay. So I'll take a motion to continue until 3/5.
Second.
Ooh, that will not be good with me.
How about
It'll
3?
be after that, I have a doctor's appointment on 3/5, and then I'm heading to visit my son the next day in Nashville, so.
Would you be able to attend virtually?
On 3/5, yes, I may.
We do Zoom.
Okay, we can.
Are you comfortable with that?
Yes, I am.
Then excuse me. You have to come forward and identify yourself.
My name is Michael McDonald. I live at 35 Sipcan
Yep.
Road.
Sit and so we can hear you. We need to
Sorry,
be
you have
picked
to
up.
be pretty close to the microphone for it to pick you up.
Our minute taker needs it.
My name is Mike McDonald. I live at 35 Sipcan Road. I also own the property next to Dave here in Wareham. And in his absence, if I can stand in for him, if somebody has to be there on inspection.
It's just, if the stakes are there and we see them by 3/5, I don't see a problem. I'm not the whole board, but I don't see a problem approving this, but we need to see the stakes. So we can, that's fine.
No, I understood Dave to say he'd be out of town, and if that's a hang-up, I'd stand in
Or
for
he
him.
can do it virtually, one or the other, but thank you very much.
If I could do the virtual.
Okay, so if you get the agenda, it has the telephone number to connect to the virtual meeting. Okay, so I will take a motion to continue this on 3/5, waiting for stakes.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstained.
Just a reminder that the stakes don't have to be in by the 3/5, but by the week before that.
They'll be in tomorrow.
Okay. Let me know if you want to borrow my sledgehammer. We'll do it together.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
we ask that they be placed a week before the hearing, so we have a chance in that time frame to go out and visit the site.
Okay.
Okay, so that's it. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And
Thank you.
Thank you, and we'll see you on the screen.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Have a great day.
The next, please.
On the request for notice of intent for Warren Pine, 264 Cremisa Road, Wareham, Massachusetts. 60 yards total of beach nourishment, map 51, lot 205, 7 Nobsco Way, Wareham, Massachusetts. I motion to open the hearing.
I have a motion to open the hearing.
Second.
I have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstained. We've been asked to continue this until 3/5.
I motion to continue until 3/5.
I heard a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstained. We're continued until 3/5. Just... All right, that's continued. This is the continued pile. We have continue, wait a minute, lost the page. We have continued hearings. We have 9 15th Street, we're continued until 5/7. We have a hearing for 25 Oak Street. They made a request to continue to 3/5.
I motion to continue until 3/5.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstains at 25 Oak Street. The next hearing is 61 Oak Street. Anybody here for that project?
I had one online.
Okay. Sorry, just finding my paper.
They are in, they just need to unmute.
All right, and who's online?
Jacob Lowe.
Okay, Jacob, you presented us last time, so you've been sworn in. What was needed?
They are still muted.
They're still muted.
I think I figured it out. Am I here?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay. All right. Sorry, I missed the last thing that you said. I was trying to figure out the mute button.
I'm trying to remember why we continued the hearing.
Plans for the
We
stairs.
continued because we wanted to update the RDA to include the pins for the removable stairs for the stairs down to the beach. There was we had some pins that we were going to put into the new pour.
All right, and the stairs just sit on the sand during the summer?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, there's an existing set there now, and they come out every winter. So we would just be, moving that up along with the new wall and making it a little easier for them to remove them.
One of my notes says the abutters were not notified. Was that completed? Do we now have green cards?
Yeah, they were notified.
Thank you. All right, questions. I'll start with Joe.
We've already seen this one before us.
Yes.
So I have no further questions on this.
Michael?
I have no questions, thank you.
Autumn?
Yeah, I believe one of the reasons why we continued this was to get more formal plans drawn up and presented to the commission. I don't see new plans drawn for us. Is that something that you are working on, or are these the final plans that we have available?
It's just kind of a hand-drawn set of plans. I'm not an engineer or anything, so whatever is submitted is kind of what we have,
Okay, thank you.
unless we hire an engineer.
Paula Jean?
I have no new questions on this project. Thank you.
Scott?
No further questions.
Okay. Christine, any comments?
The only thing I wanted to know was, it says that it's pressure treated. Do you know what it's pressure treated with?
That I do not. Is there any recommendations?
Just has to be like a non-leaching material.
Yeah, I'm not super familiar with different types of pressure treated wood or anything, but if you wanted to put a stipulation on what type of pressure treated wood, I would have no problem with that.
All right, thank you.
Is there anybody else online or in the audience want to comment on this particular project? I'm seeing none.
I motion to close the hearing.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstained. The hearing is closed. Christine, your recommendation, please.
-3, -6, just as long as they're using a non-leaching pressure-treated wood.
So non-leaching, pressure-treated wood.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, 500. The project is approved. Please see Christina in the, Christine, in the Conservation Department for your paperwork, Jacob, okay?
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Okay, I have to learn to write faster. The next one. Wait a minute, I lost my paper. Okay. Put it in the wrong place. The next hearing is for 95 Charge Pond Road. Is anybody here for that? They did indicate they would be late and would ask that we table this until they can arrive. I take a motion to table the Town of Wareham Municipal Maintenance Project at 95 Charge Pond Road.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstains, is tabled.
Actually appears that they're here.
They're here?
Yeah,
Yeah.
via Zoom.
Are they? Okay, then I will take a motion to untable.
So moved.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstains. All right. Who do we have online?
Eric's still here. And Linda. They are in, they just have to unmute.
So Eric's there, and who else?
Eric's the only one that raised their hand.
And I believe Eric's already been sworn in at the last hearing. So talk to us about the project. Dave, did you want to come up, or you just, you listen?
Yeah, I can listen.
Okay. All right,
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me all right?
yes.
Lots changed since last time I was here. We've been working with DMF to try to come up with some solutions to work on the smelt habitat. So that's kind of what we've been continuing all these meetings for. But since we've been coordinating with them, the bridge rating has dropped another ton, which is preventing emergency vehicles from traveling over the bridge. That being, I mean, police can, but as far as ambulances and fire trucks, they can't cross the bridge. So we're still currently working with DMF. I'd sent Christine a plan today with some new limits of what they want to do downstream of the bridge. I guess what we're hoping to do tonight is if we can close out our hearing as far as, getting the bridge work itself okayed by the commission, and with the condition that we work with DMF to work on the downstream portion of the project. That stream bed restoration doesn't impact the bridge, and the bridge doesn't impact the stream bed restoration. We really want to get the bridge work going as soon as possible now with the new load restriction. We have full intentions to meet the regulatory requirements that, we work with DMF on. One thing we're concerned with is what they want to do is going to increase impacts. So we're thinking of almost treating it as almost a separate project, as a restoration project, so that we can continue with the bridge work and not have to worry about additional permitting for the additional impacts. That's overall, what we're here asking to do. I don't think there are any other concerns with the bridge work itself. I think it was mostly just to address DMF's letter that they had sent when we initially submitted the NOI. They resubmitted our revised letter yesterday to the conservation agent, giving us a little more detail on what they were looking for in that restoration area, which is what I have on that plan. So I think that kind of covers what, we're asking for. So we're just hoping, if you guys are okay with the bridge work itself, we can, close that part of the project out and continue with getting this advertised to get the bridge replaced as soon as possible.
Now, the November 5th DMF letter has some restrictions for times. Would that be able, can you adhere to that?
Yes, so those are typical timing restrictions when you're in tidal areas in Massachusetts. There's also a contingency there that if the contractor can submit a control of water or water diversion control plan to DMF and it's approved, then we can get rid of the fall restriction, which will help us too. Typically, they always submit some kind of control of water measures to us to review, so we can submit those to DMF at that time. But it's a contractor design system. But we intend to include that in the specifications, so that can be dealt with during construction.
All right. Joe, I'll start with you.
I am aware that the town has been having some issues with that bridge now, that the emergency vehicles can't go over there, so I have no issue with the bridge, really. I'd actually make the recommendation, kind of expedite the process, maybe work with these guys a little bit more on getting that bridge all settled, because they're now having to go a whole nother route around Fearing Hill Bridge, so I have no really big questions. It's just more of a recommendation to maybe help them rush the process a little bit.
Thank you. Michael?
I have no questions, thank you.
Autumn?
No questions, thank you.
Paula Jean?
No questions, thank you.
Scott?
No further questions, thank you.
Yes, and I want to iterate that this will be approval for the bridge work, not the work downstream for the smelts, but as soon as we can get this started, the better it is for the town and everybody that relies on the emergency vehicles that can no longer go across this particular bridge. Is there anybody online or in the audience would like to comment on this project? Christina, your recommendation.
Standard order of conditions with compliance with a DMF letter from February 18th.
February 18th?
Yes, there was a new DMF letter.
I don't have it. Is it different than the November 5th one?
It is a little different, but it outlines, so we had reached out to the Department of Marine Fisheries and told them what our concerns were with getting this project approved versus the enhancements that they wanted to see to habitat. So working with DMF, they came up with the time of year restriction and a mitigation to that if it's so necessary, which would be creating a mitigation for the water as it would flow through. So they're saying if you have to do it within the time of year restriction, there's a mitigation that you can submit to us, and if we approve that mitigation plan, we don't have to worry about the time of year restriction. That's something we'll probably play by ear, just depending on when the bridge can actually be installed. But they did give us that ability to use that as a alternative path. So their new letter dated February 18th expands on that, and they give a little bit of guidance on the actual smelt habitat and how it should be established. They also talk about maybe the refueling of equipment, which is pretty common for them.
Typical,
Yeah.
that was also on the November 5th one. Okay.
Yeah. So I think what you'll see in their new letter is them understanding that we were kind of anticipating for this to be pushed a little bit faster than normal, but them outlining a way for it to be approved while still working with them.
Okay. Anybody online for comments? Anybody in the audience have a comment? We're working on approving the bridge work. We will deal with the downstream work at another hearing. So
I motion to close the hearing.
I have a motion to close the hearing. Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstained. The hearing is closed. The recommendation was standard order of conditions with using the February 18th, 2025 DMF letter, which is available online.
Yep, so moved.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed, abstained. So you want to, so please push it. I guess we really need that bridge repaired as soon as possible for those people relying on emergency vehicles that can no longer go over that Fearing Hill Bridge. Thank you.
Thank you, Board.
Thank you, Dave. Have a good evening. All right. The next hearing for 28 Nelson Street, they've requested a continuation until 3/19.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? 3/19. We are continued. 0 Maple Spring Road, they've made a request for a continuation until 3/5.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
500 to continue until 3/5. So, sorry. Maple Spring continued. Nelson continued. All right, we are down to certification of compliance request.
So this is for 8 Beach Plum Lane. This project was for the relocation, well, it came in with an amendment for the relocation of a staircase, the construction of a deck, and a pathway leading down to the water. Originally, it was proposed for some flagstone steps right near the very top of the bank. The Madam Chair and I had a conversation with the builder in the office one day where he just wanted to make some revisions of how the steps were actually set into the bank. We found that it was it was considered a minor alteration to what they were trying to do. So the certificate of compliance request you have in front of you, I would recommend issuing.
All right. Any questions? I'm not going to ask each individually any questions. If not,
Nope. I motion that we issue the certificate of compliance for 8 Beach Plum Lane.
that's the
Second.
motion. I have a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstains? Okay. Continue enforcements. Weren't they supposed to be in front of us?
So we did send a letter out to 50 Shangri-La Boulevard. We have not heard a response from them. And for Pine Lake Drive, we have talked to the new homeowner. It's now switched hands. This property has switched hands 3 times since the original enforcement started. He is working with the building department for a building permit, and he is working with JC Engineering to address the enforcement order. I spoke to Brad Bartolo with JC Engineering this week, and he said he was looking to get a notice of intent in front of the commission for the beginning of March.
Okay, thank you. Report of land use coordinator.
I have nothing new to report.
Oh, thank you. Move down to Wareham Land Trust River Walk Properties CR. Who's up? You going to take it here, or you going to do it online? Online. Okay. She up? Hi. Please identify yourself.
Good evening. My name is Alexandra Zolo. I am the Executive Director of the Wareham Land Trust.
All right. And you're here to ask us to hold a CR. Talk to us about the land.
I am. Let me share my screen. Just a moment.
Other one.
Okay.
Thanks, Nancy.
Okay. Can you guys all see that? Yes.
Yep, you're set.
I think you can. Okay. So, yep, as Madam Chair mentioned, I am here tonight to present the Riverwalk application for you that we have before the CPC. And the idea would be for the Conservation Commission to hold a CR, or conservation restriction, on this property. So we are looking to partner with the Conservation Commission, and we are the Wareham Land Trust. So just wanted to introduce ourselves to start. Many of you have way more history with this organization than I do, and are familiar with this group. We are, a group of your neighbors looking to preserve land for the Wareham community. So this property is 19.37 acres, and it's located between the Wareham River and the Weewiantic River. It is directly against the marsh of the Weewiantic River. So the little bit of land, I don't know if you can see my cursor, but the little bit of land to the south of this yellow outlined property is all marsh. So it's directly against the marsh. The town is being asked to commit 1.2 million towards the purchase of a conservation restriction, which is the appraised value of the development rights. And the Wareham Land Trust will own the property, with the Conservation Commission hopefully holding the CR. So this is located in kind of the southwestern corner off of Cromieset in town. And with this project, I just want to point out that the majority of the responsibilities will lie with the Wareham Land Trust. Did someone say something? I can't see anyone, so. Okay. And yes, I just want to point it out off the bat, we know that this is expensive. And I do just want to call attention to, like, comparing cost per acre. This is actually cheaper than other projects that the town has supported in the past. It's more bang for your buck. I mean, you're getting almost 20 acres of conservation land. The Wareham Land Trust also has a long history of, we have returned money to the CPC in the past. And we are very supportive of the town efforts for the open space and rec plan. So, as you all know, probably better than anyone I will present this to, Wareham is pretty vulnerable to flooding and, quite frankly, habitat loss due to a lot of really low-lying area. So, if I was better with maps, I would have been able to show you the outline of the property on these. But you can see in the far right picture that almost the entire property is within the flood zone. It's like the top little corner might not be. And basically first floor elevation would have to be like 17 feet up in the air if this were to be developed. So this property could house 12 building lots. And with that comes, all the septic systems, all the nutrient loading, all the town services, kind of everything that comes with 12 houses. So it's a low-lying area of town, and it provides a unique opportunity to be able to provide really like marsh migration area. So we'll kind of get into that a little bit more. Another interesting piece about this property is that it is situated between other conserved land. And together with the other conserved land, you're looking at nearly 50 acres that this would kind of patchwork together. So it would provide more, I guess I should say, if this were to be developed, it would fragment the efforts, the other conserved efforts on the peninsula. It looks like my shape kind of shifted there, but you still kind of get the point. Let's move on. So this property will ensure public access. We are committed to getting people out on the land, to educating them about, the benefits of the natural world around us. you can see in the pictures, we have other properties where we take people on hikes and we include informational signage. That's something that we would like to do there. We would be creating a parking area along Cromeset Road, and really kind of all hands on deck to promote this and to get people out on the property. Another point that I'd like to bring up that you all are pretty familiar with is that, you know, conservation lowers the tax burden. So some people might wonder, well, like if we're not allowing 12 houses, we're not getting 12 people's property taxes. Well, you also aren't needing the services that come along with that. Additionally, you know, we're always looking to help fortify the town in the long run to lessen the extent of damage with climate change and sea level rise. And conserving land is kind of the best way to do that in providing the buffer to the wetlands. So this property is currently under Chapter 61 forestry designation. So it's not highly taxed as it is. It's going basically from one level of conservation to a permanent level of conservation. Yes, the neighboring properties alongside it will directly benefit from being next to open space, which is a good thing because their property values go up and the tax pool and the amount of tax money that they contribute also goes up without an increased burden on services. And then we would also be getting all the ecosystem functions that the woodlands are providing currently, you know, would continue to happen with filtering and keeping out the excess nutrients that comes with development. So I know that Nancy and Kathy are there and they will probably help also, but I would love to have more of a dialogue about this if we can, to hear, you know, any of your questions, if I could answer them for you, and talk about this. I'm not sure if that's the format or not, or if I'm simply presenting, but I would certainly be open to a conversation if you are.
Thank you. Just as a reminder, it wasn't that long ago, the Marco Vista, we went through the exact same thing in which the Wareham Land Trust purchased it using community preservation funds, and we approved to be the holder of the CR. So this is something we just did no more than a year ago. So this is common practice of holding the CR for property owned by the Wareham Land Trust. So questions, I'll start with Joe.
I love this. This is in my neck of the woods. Cromeset is a very beautiful area. But excuse me if I sound dull. How does the negotiations often work? Is that direct with Wareham Land Trust and the owner of that land, or where does that price get established? I know you mentioned it was the appraised value, but I'm curious how that negotiation works.
So we are entered into a purchase and sale agreement with the landowner. So we did all the negotiations, we did all of the legwork for that, and then, you know, we'll help carry it over the finish line. So yes, we have a signed legal document to close later this year on this project.
Okay, no questions. I love this. This is in my neck of the woods, so I'd love to see this happen in Cromeset, especially Wareham.
Great, thank you.
Michael.
No questions, thank you.
Autumn.
No questions, thank you.
Paula Jean.
I don't know that I really have a question, but I think it's a fantastic project, and we're so fortunate to have the Wareham Land Trust doing things like this. It's a wet piece of property that it couldn't support sewer infrastructure anyway, so it would be a struggle if someone wanted to build there. It just would be a bad idea, and this is a wonderful thing to do with it. Thank you so much for all the work you've done to make this happen.
Scott.
Great, thank you.
Is the plan going forward to build hiking trails? Would there be areas like in Mattapoisett Walk, where there be raised walkways or paved areas? What is the future plan for not just preserving the land, but making it available for the public?
Sure. So right off the bat, we would be putting in parking areas. So that's part of like our fundraising efforts. We'd be putting in a parking area along Cremisa Road. There are trails on the property existing that are not publicly accessible. We would be kind of taking stock of those and figuring out which ones we want to keep, enhance, or otherwise, and then potentially close some that might be not ideal for access. But we have further up the road, we do have the Marks Cove Vista accessible trail. I don't know that we would do an accessible trail here. It is quite flat. We might, do other things to make it more accessible, but this probably isn't the right term. I don't foresee us paving anything here just because it is all so low. But who knows? I mean, in the future, when we write the conservation restriction document, those are things that we would want to work with the town on to leave open the possibility of potentially a boardwalk in the future if, funding and the means came available. We wouldn't want to back into a corner where we couldn't do something to make it more accessible for folks. But that'll be a kind of a discussion as we work through the conservation restriction process.
Thank you. No further questions.
Just to clarify, the town will own the CR, so the Wareham Land Trust cannot do anything to the particular property until we, as the CR holder, approves it, correct?
It depends on the terms of the CR.
Well, it depends on how you write the CR, yes.
It'll be spelled out, so the grantor, grantee, it'll be spelled out what actions need approval. So no, we won't be coming before you every time we have a trail day because that would be onerous and cumbersome. But we would be coming before you, like when we create a management plan for the property, that will be like a joint document that you guys would also approve. So there will be ample opportunity for you guys to weigh in on how this property.
So we get to approve the parking lot, the parking area? It depends on how the CR is written, granted. And if you want a boardwalk, that's another discussion. But as the holder of the CR, what we normally would have to do inspections of the lot line.
Of the property.
Of the property every year. Is that something the land trust will do in lieu of the town of Wareham?
We will provide volunteers to do it on your behalf so that legally you are in compliance, yes.
Thank you, because I know how some of these places are tough, especially Faring Hill and Westgate are tough to do going around the boundary lines. Is there anything else? Anybody has any questions? I mean, as I said, we've done the exact same holding of a CR less than a year ago for Marks Cove Vista. We did it for Sawyer property. I can't keep going on about all the ones in which the land is owned by the Wareham Land Trust and the town holds the CR. Anything else?
I have a couple questions.
Yes, please.
Alex, can you go back? I'm taking a guess, maybe 6 slides. It's the slide where you showed the other conservation properties surrounding it.
Who holds them? That was a good, I forgot to ask that
Where is
question.
that one? Hang on.
Sorry.
Sorry, I can't see the slides. Give me a second. Oh, these ones.
That
Yeah,
one.
and actually it shifted, so it's a little awkward.
Sure.
So it's Mass Audubon and a conservation restriction. So it's kind of hard to see. I wish I could fix it. But Mass Audubon owns the ones on the left. They also own like the marsh and beachfront on the right. But then there's a green portion along Cremisa Road that's owned privately, but there's a CR on it, I believe, is how that's held. I could be mistaken, but that's the way I understand it.
Have you gauged any of their interest in doing a combined project, maybe to lighten the burden of the town financially?
Nope, so there's not any, right now, Audubon's interests lie elsewhere. The exciting part about this, though, is that we now have 20 acres and 8 acres on the other side that are now accessible when they weren't before. So there will be parking and there are trails to the water. So that kind of stuff can be discussed in the future as to how and if the public are welcome there, but we would be committed to working with Audubon to figure out access in the future. And the opportunity is now there where it wouldn't have been there before.
Understood. Do you know the last time that the property was forested?
Yeah, so it's we just actually received that info from Bob Gleason, who he's, you know, worked with a forester over the years. Nancy might know it better off the top of her head. But I mean, it's probably been like 20 years since they took any wood out of there, but the way they've maintained it, it's like there are no invasives on the property. The trees are super healthy. There's a lot of really big ones. They selectively thinned. So it's actually like a great example of a forestry plan can work. So I don't know if that answers your question, but.
If you did receive information like that, I'd like to take a look at it if you could forward it to me.
Sure.
That'd be great.
For the public, this is, they have requested a 1.2 million from the Community Preservation Fund in order to purchase this land. It has to go before town special, we're going to put in special spring town meeting, and it has to be approved at town meeting for that purchase. So the CR approval will be contingent on the land being purchased, being contingent on it being approved at town meeting. Did I say that right? Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I wanted
You
people
got
to
it.
know that the CR is only valid if the money is funded through town meeting.
Yep. And in order for CPC to fund it, the town has to acquire an interest in it. So the interest that the town is acquiring is the conservation restriction.
Yes, yes. So I get to write the article.
Yes.
I'll
and
I'll
happily help you.
substitute Wareham, Vista with this river walk. Anything else from anybody? Anybody online? I just asked, is there any comments on it? I think we've covered it. Are you comfortable with making a motion that we, the Town of Wareham Conservation Commission and/or the Selectmen, I believe I have to write it that way, I can say just Conservation Commission?
Yeah, the state has found that conservation commissions are uniquely equipped to hold
Okay.
CRs rather than select boards.
Because in the past, the Selectmen have usurped us and made them the holders of the CR, and I just wanted to make sure we will be, the Conservation Commission will be the holder of the CR. So can I get a motion to approve holding the conservation restriction?
So moved.
I have that motion. I have a second. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, 500. It's been approved, and we wait for town meeting. Anything
Great.
else?
Thank you very
Josh,
much.
Christine? Nothing? Alex, are you good?
I was
Okay.
just saying thank you.
Thank you. Ladies, you good? Thank you. Okay. The next thing we have is solar PV canopies over agricultural channels. Who's going to talk to us on that one?
Do you have the lights back on?
Do we need, you can turn the lights on if it wakes you up. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, we'll wake you up. Okay, and...
Hi.
Hi, identify yourself, please.
My name is Hank Ouimet. I'm a partner with Renewable Energy Development Partners. It's my partner, Tom Mellahan. And we're here, we met with Christine and Josh a couple weeks ago to discuss this broadly. And Josh recommended we come in informally to present the concept to you folks. We submitted a letter with some photographs of the projects that we're talking about, which I hope that you've seen. Uh-oh. Josh?
Sorry, I'm just trying to get Stacy promoted to a panelist.
Oh,
I have some paper copies, can I?
Yeah,
hand them out?
please.
well, glad I asked.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Stacy's patching in by Zoom. Right. Hey, Stacy. So, purpose for us here tonight is just to present some information informally and get the commission's kind of initial feedback. Obviously, this isn't like a specific project that we're submitting. Broadly speaking, if you just go right to the pictures at the end of the letter, we have been working with cranberry bog owners in local communities for the past 4 or 5 years, actually longer than that, but over the past 4 or 5 years, we've developed and built 3 of these projects in local communities, which are solar canopies installed above active agricultural canals. And they're elevated such that the canals can continue to be used and maintained for their agricultural purpose. But we just use the airspace above the canals to generate renewable electricity, consistent with the state's program. The benefits that we see and that the landowners see are there's no tree clearing required, there's no site work. They don't surrender any of their active agricultural productive land for this. we don't require them to free up any additional land. They get an additional revenue stream from hosting the projects and from, in some cases, electricity sales. So it provides some economic viability to the farm and at a very kind of low impact framework. Like I said, we've done this in Rochester and in Carver, and we've got some opportunities here in Wareham with agricultural landowners. And before we submitted our first application, we wanted to just provide an overview of the projects. To get right at it, we recognize, because we've done this in other towns, that most every local bylaw has a no-touch disturbance area within 30, 50 feet of the resource. As you can see, the nature of these projects we're within that no-touch area. The banks to the canals are resource areas. The bogs themselves are resource areas. So it's impossible for us to build a project like this without being in that typical no-touch area, which we've been successful in other communities getting other commissions to waive those requirements due to the very limited impacts of the installation. But that's essentially what we're here to put on the table. And again, just to get to it, if it's viable or potentially viable in the town, we'd move forward and we'd prepare some applications for your consideration. If getting such relief wasn't viable, or if there's no precedent for that, we would not waste our time and your time.
Okay.
Josh, did I miss anything from our?
No, I would say this is a unique opportunity that the town hasn't really explored before, hasn't had the opportunity to explore. Some research back in the office actually indicates that this type of project is good for agricultural in a sense that it prevents algal blooms from happening because they are normally driven by the increased sunlight onto a canal. So you're actually seeing a decrease in those blooms.
Yes.
Before I keep messing it up, thank you. And it's actually a benefit for the solar production because the cooling effect underneath the panels actually prevents them from overheating, which they can do and become less effective. So it's kind of a benefit for both parties in a sense. I would say that your no activity zone, as they pointed out, is a major hindrance to these type of projects. Your rules and regs, which I believe should be finalized hopefully pretty soon, give you a way to waive those in a term of a variance. So I think you have a way to condition and approve these projects, as well as, they're just a different type of project that we haven't seen.
Questions? I'll start with Joe. I know this is the first time you've seen it, so.
Yeah, I got a little brief introduction of what it kind of looks like in the office, but you guys are the ones installing these panels, right?
Correct.
Okay, now what kind of like manufacturer are you guys using through these panels? Are they?
The panels themselves or
Yeah.
the supporting infrastructure? Well, just to be clear, and I'm sure you guys are familiar with how solar projects, the development timeframe works. I mean, we'd be probably 2 years away at this point from building a project, in best case. And given the fact that the panel size and capacity changes every 6 months or so, we wouldn't be purchasing the panels until immediately prior to construction. So in the past, we, like most developers, we only purchase panels from leading kind of financeable, bankable manufacturers.
Gotcha. Do you know if some of the past projects you've done, they've had certain kind of like lenses on the panel themselves that are linked to any harmful chemicals and stuff like that, or?
No, not to my knowledge. I mean, the panels themselves are, we should have brought one in. Some people never seen one. We deal with them all the time. So they're about the size of this tabletop. The ones that we use on projects like these are called bifacial panels. So they have glass on the front and on the back, so that the sunlight, both the direct sunlight and the reflected sunlight, can get to the silicone wafers, basically the solar cells that are sandwiched between the glass. So it's a tempered glass in an aluminum frame, and tempered glass like your windshield on your car. So they're rated for impact. If there is like an impact that exceeds their rating, they don't shatter and crack all over the place. They just like your windshield would, they stay kind of like physically together. It's all solid state. There's nothing liquid in there. There's nothing that would like leach out in the case of a broken panel. And, you know, I think I don't have the numbers in front of me, but it's 90-something% of the weight of each panel is either aluminum or glass or silicone. And then there's some solder in there. There's some precious metals that are used to increase the efficiency of the photovoltaic reaction. But they're, like I said, they're trace amounts in each one. The EPA has put out some literature saying that the solar panels are environmentally safe in their intended use. The DEP in Massachusetts, frankly, supports solar facilities on wellhead protection land. In fact, we have one of our first projects was for the Wareham Fire District on wellhead protection land. So from an environmental standpoint, the panels themselves, I don't see them as being an environmental concern. Typically, what we've seen as concerns have been things like the dielectric fluid in the transformers, which
Those are stored off-site.
years
so, you
ago
know,
could
far
have
away
been
from the panels
PCB
themselves.
based, but they all use mineral oil or environmentally safe dielectric fluids now. So the only part of the project that has any liquid component are the transformers. Everything else is solid state.
All right. No further questions for me.
Thank you.
Michael?
I'd obviously have to look a lot more into this, as I imagine everybody else would. One question I do have, though, is I imagine the panels are stored, when they're installed, I mean, they're installed at an angle where any rain runoff would be away from the bog, up the opposite end of the bog, and the water would go not towards the cranberry bog, but towards, say, the woods or anywhere else, just in the event of any disasters or anything else of that nature. Let's just put it that way.
Actually, typically the canopies are tilted in the most favorable direction for generating electricity. So if the canal were to be running east-west, then the panels would be tilted slightly to the south. Often these canals are between bogs, so there's no way to direct the water that's not kind of like or towards the woods, as you said. I would say that it's basically like installing a shed roof over the canal. So, and there's between each panel, you can see here, it looks like it's a continuous, we'll call it a roof for lack of a better word. But if you look and there may be a closer picture there, but if you look on closer inspection, you can see sunlight through the modules. I mean, there's a 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch gap around every module. So what happens in reality is when it rains, the rainwater that hits the panels runs down to the edge of one panel, and then it falls down between the cracks between the panels. So if you're like looking at the canal in a rainstorm, the rain is falling into the canal. And the outermost panel, the rain is probably falling onto the canal bog road, onto the sand and gravel bog road.
Right.
We haven't, so far, I mean, the project that first one of these we built was in 2021. We haven't had any, like, erosion or stormwater related, you can't tell, for lack of a better word, that the pre and post of the canopy installation hasn't changed anything out there, according to our observation and to the bog owner.
All right, thank you. No further questions.
Autumn.
What are the main challenges that you encounter with these types of projects?
In what regard, like constructability or?
Yeah, just when the project gets approved, is there a major hurdle during the approval process? Is there a hurdle in getting the materials to the site, putting it together? Does the canal kind of shift a bit?
The engineering and construction process is usually pretty smooth. Frankly, most of the difficulty is around the novelty of this with boards like yours, understandably. I haven't seen it before, planning boards haven't seen it before. So answering questions like this or just addressing the issues is a typical, I wouldn't call it a hurdle, it's just a process we work through. Once the projects are approved, and utility approval is another, again, I wouldn't call it a obstacle, it's just a process and it takes a long time these days. But it's really, the utility approval doesn't really have much to do with the design of the system. It's more about the electrons that are going out to the grid. Utility doesn't really care what your project looks like. So those two things take the longest amount of time. Once those are done, we secure construction financing and order the materials, and it's pretty commoditized at this point, frankly. Nothing here is custom. Nothing is custom as well. Some of we're the only guys doing this as far as we know, so we did come up with an engineering partner with a custom truss design, but we've done it enough times now that it's making more Doritos.
Yeah, and has, since the first project that you've successfully implemented, have you changed your method of approaching the installation?
Only in the terms of efficiency. Mm-hmm. Like our construction efficiency has improved significantly since the first one we put up, just because, probably should have built the staging this way instead of the way we built it, or handled materials different, or staged materials differently, but the design really hasn't changed that much.
Okay. And the bog owners are excited about this type of project?
Yeah, bog owners are really happy. Like I said, from their operational standpoint, nothing changes with the use of their canals. They move water through the canals to the bogs as they have always done. There's a sufficient clearance between the ground surface and the lowest structural members that they can get in there to kind of demuck the canals and maintain the canal banks. We typically work in partnership with the landowner to do a good canal cleaning right before installation, because sometimes they don't touch those canals for years and years. So, but these projects are a 20-plus year lifespan, so it makes sense. And yeah, all the landowners we've worked with are like, "Can you do more?" We're like, "Well, you don't have any more canals." So, but so far they seem very happy. Like I said, we're not in there. We're not over the bog. We're not taking up land, and typically we avoid areas where they have historically taken berries off the bog. Like if there's a narrow bog road next to the canal, we typically will maybe leave that area open without canopies so it doesn't interfere with their harvesting operations. That's all, the folks we work with, cranberries are number one. This is a kind of a part-time gig,
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Paula Jean.
So this is brand new to me. I didn't see this until tonight. So what the supports, I'm looking at the picture of the supports, they're into the ground. How deeply are they set? And are those steel beams or aluminum? What am I looking at in this picture?
Yeah, probably the best picture is the one on the last page.
I've got the next to the last page,
Okay.
but
You look
you
at the
could tell
one that
me.
has the excavator.
Yeah,
So they're typically 20-ish foot long steel beams.
Okay, there's the size. and
Yeah, and probably 8 to 10 feet of
feet in,
embedment.
Underground, okay.
It kind of depends on the wind load and the design and the length of any particular canopy. So there's no excavation, as you can see, the
No
machine is...
trenching, right, they
trenching,
just
there's
pound them in.
It's equipped with a hydraulic hammer, essentially, that grabs the beam and
So
then...
they're steel, is that what you said?
Yeah,
They're
they're
steel. Okay. And what's the source? Where do you source your panels? Where are they made? Do you know?
Well, like I said, we buy the panels on the market like everyone else do. Historically, the
so-
panels have been from China, Vietnam, Taiwan.
Asia, primarily
Mostly
Asia.
Southeast
Yeah,
Asian
yeah.
and Southeast Asian.
And the materials in the panels, I know you were talking about the materials earlier, including even the solder and used. Are they glass or are they plastic?
There's, if this was a panel, what you'd be looking at is glass, a tempered glass on the top.
Glass is the outer layer. And
Inside
then,
an aluminum frame. And then there is some plastic integrated in it to provide structural spacing between the wafers, the silicone wafers themselves. So glass, aluminum, and plastic, I think, by weight, are the predominant.
and is the plastic totally enclosed or is it exposed to the environment or?
Well, I would say most of it's enclosed. The leads, the electrical leads that you connect each panel together are those insulating jackets are probably some kind of plastic.
Right, yeah. 'Cause I'm sure, Hank, you know, there's been a lot of concerns about
PFAS.
PFAS leaching and being toxic, and it's the forever chemicals. What can you say to that?
I know that, I'm aware, just being in the industry, that there were PV modules available historically that did have PFAS in their manufacture, but I also am aware that you can explicitly require them to be PFAS-free in the manufacture, so you can
So
buy
where are
panels.
they making the PFAS-free ones?
All those major manufacturers are doing that. because
And
of
there's
those
some
concerns.
testing going on and verification?
Well, they all have to get UL and other safety certifications in order to sell into the, or to be financeable in the market, so.
I mean, that seems like one of the biggest negatives to solar right now. At least you're not clear cutting.
Yeah, and like I said, I know that it's been a concern in the past. I don't know, the leach, I don't know how significant the leachability concern has ever been with a module, given what I know about how they're manufactured.
Yeah.
But certainly to the extent that they can just remove those chemicals to begin with,
If
makes
they
it.
didn't put them in to begin with, there'd be a lot less objection.
Well, yeah.
Of course.
But they're, like I said, those chemicals are found in lots and lots of manufactured products. And lots of industries
Yeah.
are hearing the concerns
Sure.
and are moving
It's in
away
all of
from it.
us.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Scott?
What kind of range of kilowatt projects are we talking about?
Well, so the ones we've installed so far range from roughly 700 kilowatts DC to about triple that, about
2.5.
2.5 megawatts DC, so
1.5 megawatts.
or 2,500 kilowatts, right, just to use the same, be consistent.
Right, and is that the kind of scale that you would consider for the Wareham growers?
Yeah, definitely probably not much lower than the 700. It's really difficult to make the numbers work from an economy of scale standpoint. The ones that, the 2,500 kilowatt, that's a lot of canals, so.
That's about a mile of canal.
About a mile of canal, so it's unlikely that there's that many growers that have a mile of canals to work with.
And can you talk,
Sorry, the canal has to be oriented in the right direction as well. So if the canal's running north-south, it's really not the best candidate. So there's not that many out there that kind of work, that don't have a lot of trees in the way or that are oriented in the right direction.
so are there projects where the canal is running right next to a bunch of trees and you have to cut the trees or at least prune them to get the sunlight on the panels?
We typically go look for another canal.
Okay. And then I was wondering about the the height of the canopy above the canal banks, not of the canal itself, because that's going to change, but the canal banks? Is it like 10 feet, or 4
So-
feet, or?
Typically 8 feet on the low side and about 12 feet on the high side is the clearance that we're aiming for.
All right, so, and the panels are oriented, slanted a little bit to the south.
Ideally, if we have an east-west canal, we'll put the low side on the south side and the high side on the north side so that we're capturing as much sunlight as possible.
Right, so during the day, you get east-west sweep of sunlight underneath the panels that height, is that right? What happens to the vegetation? I mean, Josh has talked about preventing algal blooms, but what about the vegetation of the banks? Does that change over time?
It grows faster than we wish it would. Yeah, I think that especially in dry, hot summer conditions, the canopy actually provides a benefit to the grasses because it keeps the soil a little more moist, and the grasses can get enough direct and indirect sunlight. So we haven't seen, if the concern is do the grasses die under the panels and create an erosion issue, we haven't seen that at all.
But you haven't looked,
Opposite, yeah.
Yeah, it's the opposite.
but you haven't looked for conversion of vegetation from one type to another?
Stacy, I don't know that we've actually asked that question of the bog owners or done an in-depth analysis of that. It's a good question. I don't think so. I think it's the same mixture of grasses that were on the bank before we install the canopies.
Yeah, probably just stand next to the panels, see what's there, and then go under the panels and see what's there. You don't need an in-depth.
Yeah, no, it looks the same.
Assessment, I would think.
We could certainly submit more pictures. I have pictures during midsummer that you can see sections of the canal that don't have canopies over them and sections that do. And the noticeable part was that the grasses under the canopies were taller.
And I have just one more question, and it's probably the most important one I'm going to ask. And that is, are there on-site battery storage units that are part of this, or you go directly into the grid? Could you talk about that a little bit?
So far, on all of our canopy projects, we haven't included battery storage. The state mandates it for certain size projects. We've been able to get waivers and exemptions from those requirements. Oftentimes, the landowners don't have a good suitable space for it. I can't speak to particulars, but we haven't done one with battery storage yet, and if we had one with battery storage, we would expect there to be additional focus on safety and environmental concerns with that. And we certainly wouldn't propose it in the buffer right next to the canal.
Right. You certainly would get pushback
Yeah.
on that, I think. Okay, thank you.
You said that none of this is over the growing bog. It's all on its edge, on the, yes. Because I know that we had a project in Carver, which we denied over the bog, and we lost in court. So I was just asking, and you've answered the question, that it will not cause a lot of shade onto the growing area. Is there any of this project in the area? Did you mention Carver?
We have projects in Carver and Rochester, yes.
And is there a chance you can give Josh or Christina the addresses in case we might like to go see what has been installed?
Give us a second and we'll pop one on the screen for you.
Oh, thank you. Because if it's that close to us, I think we should deserve the project, honor the project and take a trip to see what it looks like. But I was concerned about the battery, and more than likely, whatever comes out of this is be used by the bog owners, or will it go into the general grid?
It's an easy question to ask, and it's a little more complicated to answer based on the way the state's regulations work. Typically, the bogs have a very low electricity consumption. They're converted to propane pumps and other things. So typically, the electricity gets exported to the grid, and then we virtually assign it to customers, including, in some cases, the bog owner or local customers or local businesses.
The other thing they mentioned is that typically there's no fence associated with it. The 8-foot height allows us to not have to put a fence up.
So even the deer get underneath it.
Yeah, there's no fence, and then all the wires are run up under the panel. Until they get to a combiner box, and then they go down the column into underground conduit.
And the glass will take an impact of a shell coming from a seagull
Yeah.
It's hail, I take a hail.
Hail.
I think they have to pass they fire frozen chickens at them with a can. I mean, I don't want to be.
So we
Yeah,
have,
they're impact resistant by design. They're just again, on the panel manufacturing and safety issue, I mean, all of the major panel manufacturers warranty their panels for 20-plus years. And it's not just a production warranty. They wouldn't be able to do that if they couldn't stand behind like the structural integrity of the panels. So the panels are well-built and are built to sit out in the environment for 25 years and take a beating. And when we do, and just about every other project owner that we know, we do at least a yearly drone scan of the projects. And the drone scan will pick up a short or a fault in any individual module. And so if we have a cracked module or something that's not working, we know it and we can go replace it.
how long have these panels been up in Carver and Rochester?
Rochester, year and a half now. Well, that particular one that you're looking at, a year and a half-ish, right?
So you can see gaps in it based on the angle or the orientation of the canals, right? So I see,
Yes.
Yeah.
Can I,
Yeah.
yeah, that's, right there is where you can see that right to the right of his arrow. That's a tailwater recovery pond, and so they flood their canals with that tailwater, and there's a pump discharge on the other side of that pump house. And then that little cutout in the canal, right to the left there. Yeah. Basically, that is an area operationally that the bog owner didn't want to
so
be
you deal with the
hindered by.
bog owner for the placement of these panels over their canals? Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Josh?
Madam Chair, Ms. Minahan would like to speak. I think there might just be some difficulties, so we're trying to get that worked out. Stacy, can you hear us?
I can hear you fine. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you, yes.
I think it's working. Okay, great. I think you maybe needed to unmute on your end. I was trying to talk, but it's apparent no one could hear me. Thank you. The one I was trying to weigh in on was the question about the vegetation underneath the panels and next to it. And I don't have a, definitive answer other than, yes, it does look the same, but part of it is because the bog owners keep those edges so maintained. So everything tends to be very short along, the bank and the shoulder of the agricultural access road. So I wouldn't really anticipate a change in vegetation. It's certainly something that could be looked at, but regardless, it's generally kept pretty, mowed pretty low.
Yeah, I would just add that the bog owners, they're trying to keep weeds out of their bogs, so they don't want any of the neighboring grasses to go to seed, or to the weeds, so they're routinely mowed.
Yeah.
I will complicate matters further. I know that there's this no disturbance zone issue that we'd have to deal with in any of these projects. But to complicate matters, oftentimes, or not often, but at least in some instances, what were formerly rivers and streams have been reconfigured and channelized and maintained by the bog owners under agricultural exemptions over the years. And so now they're managed agricultural canals, but they retain their riverfront designation, as my understanding with Stacy. So in addition to your no disturb zone.
You got 200 feet.
200-foot riverfront area. And again, at least in another community, we were able to, the commission saw fit to grant relief to that, but we're just flagging it as another relief that we would require, most likely, because these channelized streams are pretty
Close to water bodies, yes. Josh, anything else?
I'm going to step back a lot here, going back to the PFAS. I know you guys are coming in front of the commission now to gauge, whether they would even entertain seeing an application from you. If there was a requirement that you purchase panels that are certified PFAS-free, are you seeing a huge price difference in between those and other panels? And would that potentially, it's something that we would probably require at the end of the project. So for you guys to do all the engineering, come in with the application to get to that point, for us to say that's a requirement, does that sink you? Does that make it a waste of time, or?
No, I think we're prepared to live with that condition.
Okay. And then, can you talk a little bit about how the transformers are protected? Or is there any protection for them?
Well, so typically, we would look to locate the transformers in an upland area out of any resource area buffer, for one. Second, they're usually, I mean, they look just like all the transformers, commercial transformers you see associated with a building, a big green box, fully enclosed. So we'll put them on a concrete housekeeping pad, elevated above the surrounding grade. We'll keep them out of the floodplain. We'll put a gravel trench around them just to shed the runoff that comes off the pad. And then the transformers themselves, again, are fully enclosed, weather rated. They're designed to be out there for 30, 40 years. And the only, historically, the only concern with transformers from an environmental standpoint has been the nature of the dielectric fluid that they all use as part of their transforming job. And the dielectric fluid used to contain PCBs almost universally, but it hasn't for 20 plus years. And now you can get transformers that have, environmentally safe dielectric fluid, and it comes with a certification, MSDS. So
Mineral oil.
it's actually like groovier than mineral oil. It's some.
And I'll say we heard a similar proposal to when Eversource came before you guys for the reconstruction of the old movie theater. Is that
Doty.
Doty? Okay, yeah. They said the same thing about the transformers as well. The other thing I just want to mention, and I won't speak for this board, but historically, conservation commissions who have put in these no activity zones, they're really more of a way to keep naturalized or some type of beneficial buffer to these resource areas. But a lot of the projects that are proposed here are already bog roads or, these 30.
Disturbed areas.
Yeah, disturbed areas.
Now, does Carver or Rochester have a no-work zone?
They both do, yes,
They
ma'am.
both do, and they waived for this particular project, and the 200-foot riverfront.
It was only in one, that wasn't in Rochester, but yes, ma'am, they did. And it was on their rationale was what Josh just said. These are
There's already disturbed areas.
disturbed bog road, and the edge of the road is maintained by the bog owner already. So,
Both a river and a canal in Carver.
in Carver, right.
Okay.
And I think also, we had a lot of discussion about that, and part of it was also the nature of the pile installation. I think if we were drilling holes for every pile and creating more disturbance, they might have had more reservation for that. But since the piles kind of go in,
Any trouble putting those piles in where we are such a glacial rocks and stuff? There had to be some problems.
well, there's a sneaky boulder lying around every once in a while. And
Yeah,
we've hit a couple of them. Typically, the solution is just to pull the pile out and relocate it and structurally adjust to that.
and hopefully the boulder's not that big.
We haven't run into any house-sized boulders. We've run into some that are big enough to have to move piles. But I mean, this project was 200 and something piles, and I think we had refusal on 3. And these are cranberry bogs, so it's lots and lots of sand.
Lots of sand.
And the piles are, I don't think we really haven't run into a situation where they're in the bank. They're off the bank. So,
Yeah, by design, we're above the break of the bank.
Yep. Anything else?
How is the steel protected from corrosion, underground part of it? Is it coated with something?
Well, we typically would like to galvanize them for long-term corrosion resistance. And my understanding is that I'm not a corrosion engineer, but my understanding is the weak point is right at the air-to-ground transition.
Yeah.
So once you bury the pile, not groundwater notwithstanding, I mean, corrosion is less of a concern than that transition right at the ground surface.
Can I just ask Hank and Tom, how long have you been doing this?
These types of projects?
Yeah, this type of project.
The first one that looks like this that we built was in 2021.
Okay.
We've been doing this since 2010, and the project we built for Wareham Fire District was built in 2012 or 13.
We worked for a lot of water districts. We've done projects on water district land in Martha's Vineyard. Done a lot of landfills and a lot of, more recently, agrivoltaic projects in Rochester and Carver as well. So the panels are up, not over the cranberry bogs, but we've done them over just upland areas where we've elevated the panels. So we kind of have a niche of doing kind of dual use type of projects.
Okay. I just wondered how long you know, 'cause if something does go south, and then we're the guys that put it here, long gone, you know?
Yeah, well, we like to pride ourselves on that. Hey, we're local guys. We're locally owned. We're not representatives of a larger company. So we own the company and we own the projects that you're looking at.
Thank you. Anything
Have
else?
you done a market analysis? In other words, do you have Wareham growers lined up for this kind of project?
We have relationships with some growers in town, absolutely, that have an interest, which is why we're here.
So I can't in any way speak for the Conservation Commission or the town of Wareham or its agents, but I would like to see a specific project in Wareham.
Okay. Anybody, anything else? Thank you so very much. Appreciate your time coming before us.
Sure.
You can tell by our questions what our concerns are.
Sure. So should we take away from this that it's, like I said, I don't want to waste our time or your time. It doesn't sound like it's a fatal flaw proposition, or did I read the
I
name correctly?
got the...
No, we're not asking you to opine on a project because you can't.
PFAS-free, certified-free, that proven, and that you're still around, so we don't add, you know, there's Love Canal, there's 3 Mile Island, this Chernobyl, those are household words, and we know why. In hindsight, it's a whole different story. So those are my concerns.
Yes, and I like the idea of not cutting trees. Or, yes. Anything else? Any other comments? But thank you very much. I would, especially if our new regulations allow us that exception, that would be a good match. But
Thank you, Madam
that's
Chair.
me.
Thank you, folks. Appreciate your time. Thank you very
Yes,
much.
thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Have a good night.
Thank you. Stacy, do you take care?
Thank you very much. I'm sorry I couldn't be there in person tonight. I'm up in New Hampshire. So
can
thank you for letting me
vacation now.
participate remotely.
Oh, take care.
All right, bye.
There's one more thing, under 48 hours, I'd like to bring something up, and under 48 hours, I'll have a discussion and a vote, and it will be on the agenda for 3-5 to ratify. We have had an issue of funds that have not been reimbursed to Autumn and Paula Jean. What happened, they occurred prior to FY '25, therefore they could not be paid out of the Conservation Commission budget. I won't tell you how long ago you incurred this expense, but at least a year?
More than a year.
More than a year, so.
Yeah.
And because it can't be coming out of budget, because it's a different fiscal year, we have a conservation trust fund. But how much do we have in that?
Oh.
A good couple thousand?
I think tens of thousands.
Oh, I'll go, so we should have no problem handling this. So this was recommended as a source of funding. So I'm going to say that Autumn is owed $416.20.
I think it's closer to
Yeah,
700.
that's probably mine.
Mine's
Autumn
closer.
has
I
more.
got Paula Jean as $395. Did I misunderstand?
No, I have Autumn as, I think it was 416.25.
Let me check that out, because it's close to 700, because I had multiple fundamentals units, I had multiple...
Right, you at least had the conference so that you have at least three, yours is 395.
I've got my slip right here, but mine wasn't nearly as big as.
I have you at
all Autumn, much more.
395.
Yeah, I think that sounds right.
Yeah, so Autumn's is at least 395 plus
Yeah.
some other classes, you think?
Yeah, I almost finished my cert.
Oh, okay. So let's, okay.
So I just want verification of the dollar amount, and,
So what I would say is, you still have to ratify this at your next meeting.
yes.
But,
So I would take a motion that we reimburse Autumn and Paula Jean funds from the Conservation Trust Fund, and the exact dollar amount will be used at the time we ratify at the next meeting.
yes.
And the accounting department has asked for proof of payment, and they both have provided copy of their credit card receipts to show that these payments are valid. So they've done everything asked of them, and the town has not given them the money. So I'm going to require and ask a motion to allow for payment from the Conservation Trust Fund to both Autumn and Paula Jean, the amounts to be determined on the 3/5 meeting.
Yep.
That being the motion.
We don't vote.
So moved.
Thank you. In a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? What's your vote? Aye?
I abstain.
allowed
I
to
thought
vote?
we shouldn't vote.
Your vote? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, aye.
You should abstain from your own.
So I'm
But
putting
you're gonna
I'm
vote
putting
at
them
the next
together.
meeting.
I'm putting them
Then we both
together.
have to abstain, right?
Well, no, you're
No.
only that we would pay the
Okay.
funds out of the Conservation Trust. At the next meeting, we'll have the dollar amount, and I will take them as separate motions.
Okay,
Aye.
however you want to do it.
I can- so-
Agree.
Yeah, you
Thank
both
you.
can't abstain technically because
Then we
you
don't
lack a
have-
quorum.
Right.
So, but this is just that the money will come
Okay.
from Conservation, the exact money will be determined on 3/5, so we
Sure.
are one step closer to getting you your money.
Yay.
Okay.
Yay.
And you call me tomorrow.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to say for the record, it's really not about the money, but here are two people who are on board to go with our own time and do more to become more educated and do a better job, and it's, a promise is made to entice us to do that, and we did it, and then this happened. It's unfortunate in the
I
future.
have no idea what happened,
you know,
why you got
but
missed.
it's
but
crazy.
It's
It's
done.
not even
So,
about the money.
Anything else from anybody else? It's 7:35, 7:36.
I motion to adjourn the hearing.
Second.
Meeting.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. 5 opposed, abstained, 500. We are adjourned. Thank you very much, folks.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.